All right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first August MSP Success webinar here. I know we had this one got postponed here in July. I think it was too hot in Phoenix, and that's why we postponed it here, which is where Amelia is from. But a really cool webinar that we put together here today with the team at ID Agent. We've been working with ID Agent and Amelia for a long time. I think Nashville is her second residence here, that she's here so often at our rapid implementation workshops. And we specifically sat down and designed this webinar very specific to just what I'm hearing out there with a lot of the members. And some cool stuff here, cybersecurity sales secrets you wish you knew a year ago. And Amelia, I'm going to turn it over to you. You are the expert on this topic. Just know for everyone from a logistical standpoint is that I'll be watching in the questions. And so if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A section on there is the best. If you just have a quick comment, but it's not a question, feel free to throw it in the chat. If you want to just say hello, any of that type of stuff there. Q&A just makes it on this side of it from Zoom a little bit easier for us to manage that and make sure that we get every question answered as well. So with that, Amelia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Yes. So Jeff will be watching and listening in the background. So that means everybody has to behave themselves because Jeff is watching. No, thank you for attending today. Sorry we had to reschedule it. And yes, it was too hot in Phoenix. And so no, but today I'm going to be talking to you about strategies that I talk about a lot, and regardless of whether or not you are a current ID Agent customer or you're not an ID Agent customer, these things will translate, right? And there's strategies that you can take. You can walk out of this webinar today and put them into place, right? But what I really want to focus on, and I decided on this topic and wanted to, after talking to Jeff and really just to kind of reiterate, right, that there's some proven selling strategies, right, that the partners, MSPs have been using and are really successful with and continue to be successful, right? So they work, right? They work at increasing conversions and profits, right? So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on today is going through. It might be a refresher for some. If it is a refresher, it's good to, I'm sure you'll pick up some new stuff because I've added some new stuff in there. And if it's not, and this is your first time going through it, you're going to walk away with some awesome stuff that works. And you'll be successful with it. So going to be talking to you about, right, like some overcoming objections, some things to, do's and don'ts, and really hitting home on how to use, actionable threat intelligence, specifically, like dark web monitoring and that type, compromised credentials, and those threats and that risk. Talk about like how important that is, right? And leveraging that insight to land and expand with current customers, and also, get your foot in the door with new customers, right? Why, dark web monitoring, while, it may seem like it's not really that important, it really is important, right? And why your customers need it, why your prospects need it, and really just how to get around those discussions and being sure that, you're helping by educating, right? So, all right. So really, the secrets that you wish you knew a year ago, right? So first secret, right? Leveraging reports, right? And I hear a lot of success stories, MSPs that are utilizing reports, right? And utilizing the ID Agent dark web compromise reports and the reports that you get from the monitoring, right? And the reports that you get from the phishing simulation, security awareness training metrics, right? Using these and communicating to their customers and really talking about cybersecurity, right? About the risk and having those in-depth conversations with your customers. And it's kind of a pro tip here, right? You want to make sure that these reports are getting back to your customers, right? I think a lot of times what we started seeing at ID Agent here is that our MSP partners were starting to automate it, automate the sending of the reports to their customers. And and while I get it why you would want to automate that, but I think you're missing an important component of that relationship. And the last thing that you want to do is cut yourself out of the insight being that trusted advisor, right? So you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of the opportunity that pulling these reports and sharing these reports with your customers presents to you, right? To go through them and have those conversations about cybersecurity, right? So you want to make sure that these reports are getting back to your customers, showing the things that you are doing so they can see how you are working behind the scenes, right? And don't just sell, right? It has to be wrapped around education. And I'm telling you, the partners that do this, they have tremendous success. I see it, I hear it from them, right? So, they don't just go into a QBR and just be like, here's a new shiny object, I want to sell you this, blah, blah, blah. They're going in and they're saying, look, we're talking to you again about cybersecurity, right? We've talked about the fact that, we have to keep changing and adding services to protect organizations as security threats and vulnerabilities grow. Here's the report that we ran. We found, there's 50 some odd credentials for your organization, and all it takes is one username and password to get in and can, potentially exploit this business. So take the time, educate them, walk them through, and have a good conversation with them, right? I think one of the things that we saw sort of as a paradigm shift come out of this, the pandemic, and really a lot of the news and media attention around the cyber threat landscape is historically, there was always kind of a challenge to get customers, get clients to kind of, get the value of cybersecurity, right? Without a client or a prospect or a small business having actually been a victim, it was really hard to sell them cybersecurity and get them to understand the value and the impact of the risk. Well, with this kind of paradigm shift, what we've seen now is that there is more attention. Cybersecurity is finally getting the attention that it deserves, and customers, clients are more receptive to having that conversation. But it's still hard to, there's still challenges in painting that picture of risk for them, and so having tips and tricks and ways to do that is really just going to further that conversation because they're receptive to it, right? So there's this huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. We all have to work together to better secure, because we all know it's not going away. It's only going to get worse, right? So thinking kind of about the best practices, right? QBRs, using those detection reports, those the tracking metrics reports from Bullfish ID, right? In QBRs, right? Adding them in the reporting with your QBRs from the dark web and adding Bullfish ID, and it adds value for you, the MSP, to your customer by letting them see the things that you are doing, and it really puts into their mind that you have their back, right? You're protecting their organization. I've shared this before, and you may have seen it before, and I really love sharing it because it's simple and effective, right? So one of the new kind of twists on a sales strategy that we saw, and this goes back to leveraging the reports, is an MSP partner that was working with. He had a break fix customer, and he'd had this break fix customer for ridiculously long time, like 10 years, couldn't convert them to a managed services. So what he did is he offered to run a free phishing campaign on this break fix customer because he was, he had access and was managing the AD. And he did the free phishing campaign and used the results report, which, as you see on the screen there, pretty telling. But it helped put that, oh my God, my employees aren't really as smart as I thought they were. And so using that to really get that break fix customer emotionally, right? It was a 92% click rate. Over half the employees, submitted credentials, gave away the keys to the kingdom, right? So he took that break fix customer, just offering to run one free phishing campaign on the end users, right? One free phishing email campaign that he sent out, got these results back, and used that to demonstrate, hey, this is a problem, and this is a huge risk to your organization. So he was able to, sign them up for a 3-year managed services contract, right? So, and I'm not saying that happens every single time, but talking about using, different strategies to paint the picture of risk, using the reports that are available to you to show your customers, hey, look, it's not just me telling you need this, right? You do, but this is why, right? Because we've got, these issues, and, also being able to kind of identify those problem childs, right? We all have them in our clients, right? And not just identify them, but why they are the problem, right? And provide that training, that insight to the customer. Zero trust is great, but you can't control users everywhere all the time. So continuous education is the key, right? Teach curiosity to the users and give them permission to pause. And it's also going to help you, really differentiate yourselves, right? So, opening up the conversation around policies, right? Construct and implement policies around security, and the minimum security policies that you as an MSP have in place for a reason, right? And adhere to, right? So then, so now you're implementing policies for customers, your clients, right? You're training their staff. You're able to track and monitor with tools to help make sure that everyone, everything is on track and adhered to. And it's, that's really going to help you stand out as, the trusted advisor and really a partner with your customers, with your clients, and creating that roadmap for them, right, to further strengthen their cybersecurity posture, right?
Hey, Amelia, let me just jump in real quick because I'm curious on it. If you want to pop back to the slide before we get into the top 3 phishing kits, is that when you're looking at these, the different reports of the ones you showed a couple slides ago, and then this one here, what would be your estimate? I don't know if you know the number, and I didn't ask you this before, so I'm kind of throwing it at you here. Is that what percentage of MSPs do you see that are actually using these type of reports as that value add to really go in there and not only upsell and sell these additional services, but also show the value that they're receiving? Is it like 10% of them? Is it 90% of them?
Well,
Any idea of where that is?
So, the MSPs that are really being successful with it, and we're talking like these are the ones that have grabbed hold of the value of it, and now they're in the top 5 to 10% because they're kicking ass and taking names, and they're really able to, show the value with that. So it's our most successful ones, the ones that we hear are just coming back and they're like, we love ID Agent, we love the reports, we love what you were able to help us show the value of, and we're selling our top security package stack to every single customer and client that walks through the door.
Are you seeing when they're going up? Because you mentioned something around of differentiating. My assumption on that, and I'm just making sure that I'm assuming correctly here, is that they're being able to differentiate by using these reports, because even though quite a number of people have different tools around this, or they've got access, paid, free, I mean, there's all kinds of things that are out there, is that there's a lot of them that are just they're not using it, or they feel like it's overkill. on it, and that the client doesn't really care.
Right. And that, yeah, exactly. And yes, there are many, there's others out there that offer free or light discounted versions, right? I mean, Have I Been Pwned is a perfect example of a free site that you can use, but it's not going to give you the ability to look into and provide granular reports and show things like that and demonstrates, and I'll talk more about our live data search, what many partners, myself when I was an MSP was using as a prospecting tool, and the value of the threat intelligence in there, more so than just, dark web monitoring, right? Yes, it's important, but there's other things outside of that that makes them such valuable tools. Same thing with, showing and leveraging the reports here in Bullfish ID, right? So you can look and see, okay, so of all the phishing kits that we've sent out, right, it'll show you the not only the granular open rates and click rates and when they submitted data, but the overarching too. So you can kind of start to see the trends, and you can do it for an entire customer organization, or you can do it for just one campaign, or you can do it for one employee. Again, identifying the problem child, and it's not so much to like point out, oh, this person is the problem child, but because we want to solve those problems as MSPs, right? So you're bringing that to your customer and you say, so, we've got a couple of individuals, probably need some more training, and let's get to the problem and identify it and fix it and solve it before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. It's something that I've seen over the last year, that a lot of the top MSPs are using some of these tools to be able to do just that as things get riskier and riskier out there, and getting people's attention, because you do show that you actually are taking care of them in what you're doing, and you're watching over this. So this is really cool of what you've got coming up next. So I'll let you go back to the next slide here of where I know I wanted to see this, is that like what is actually catching people in phishing right now?
Yeah. So, and again, this is based on the new data that we had. So we pulled these numbers, I think it was midway through the pandemic, right? And obviously it was COVID-19. All of the top phishing kits that end users were falling for were all COVID-19 related, right? That's not really a big surprise there. And now this is the most recent phishing kits that end users are still falling for. And it just kind of goes to show you, right? So COVID-19 is still something that is able to be leveraged and used as a way to trick people, right? So a OneDrive document that is sharing policies, HR policies around COVID-19 is still the number one phishing kit fallen for. The second one is UPS, right? And that just kind of still speaks to the fact that we're all very hurried, right? And now add to that the remote or the hybrid work environments, and people are still outside of, the IT is decentralized. They're outside their comfort zones. They're using mobile devices way more than, laptop or desktop, scrolling through, and it's just, we're all in such a hurry, right? So, the UPS, the FedEx phishing are still, that's number two that employees are falling for, right? And fraudulent activity, right? And that one speaks a lot to the number one thing that threat actors leverage, and that is fear, right? Oh my God, fraudulent activity. Oh my God, somebody got in my stuff. Oh my God, what is it? What is it? What is it? Right? And so they leverage fear. Fear is their greatest weapon. Fear of pandemics, fear of getting in trouble from a boss because they didn't, go out and buy those 150 gift cards immediately because the boss had sent them an email specifically asking them to do it, immediately because he needed it, right? Or any of those things, right? So again, there's, while we've come a long way, we still, the ongoing education is critically important. And that's what these tools are designed to empower you with, right? Creating those narratives, keeping those narratives up. And it's not so much about creating a shame culture. It's about, empowering the end users, right? So, and then that narrative changes, and it becomes that they want to, that your customers, your clients, they want to have those empowered, engaged users that are hypersensitive because they've been educated to be aware of phishing emails that can harm the organization, right? And especially now with so many remote and hybrid working environments, you really have to rely on those users more. I was just Googling stats for another talk that I'm doing. And, some of the most recent ones that I came across was like 45% of employees still click on emails that they consider to be suspicious just in case it's important. Right. And those another, like 30% of employees don't report suspicious emails out of fear of getting in trouble. Again, it's circling back to that fear thing. So, it's the education, right? You will sell if you lead with the education. And so utilizing these tools, utilizing the ability to pull, the top phishing kits and show, your customers, your clients, like where, we need to educate, we need to, train employees, we need to make sure that they're hyper aware, and it's identifying the problem and sharing that with your customers and clients is the best way to begin to fight back the onslaught, right? It's only going to get worse. It has gotten worse. It's going to continue to get worse. So, kind of want to transition, talking about the onslaught and the cyber attacks and the threats. And this is a very, very important thing, and I don't want it to be minimized. Dark web monitoring, while we in the channel and MSPs and IT professionals, we've been hearing about it a lot. So I've heard some things that some partners, some MSPs, because I talk to MSPs on the road all the time, and they're like, oh well, people just don't care. Dark web monitoring, they just don't care, right? And that alone is scary, right? And I think it kind of goes back to like we're all so desensitized because we deal with this so much. But at the end of the day, bottom line, we have socially engineered our world, and it is easier than ever to get information on anyone, anything, anywhere, right? And as MSPs, right, we get asked, so what's the dark web, right? Why compromise credentials? Why should I care, right? And maybe you've come across, at small business, SMB businesses, your customers, clients, prospects, whatever, that's maybe, maybe they actually have never heard of the dark web. It's possible, right? Or maybe they're confused about what it is, right? They think it's a Google type of site or something that they can go to, and we all know that that's not the reality of it, and that it's very much a behind the scenes component of the internet, but it's still, it's a very lucrative, very organized, very sophisticated, and so having that dark web monitoring is really, really, really critical, and it's critical to educate with that, right? And so that's kind of what I want to talk about next is like how do I educate people? And I mean, like they want to know, prospects, customers, they all want to know, how does their data get onto the dark web? And, what they can do with different things. And so what we're looking at on the screen right here are the threats to all businesses, right? And the threats to all businesses are the websites that we go on a daily basis to conduct business. And I think it's really important because, you look at like your email, right? Your CRM, your social media, your banking, your finances, travel, communications, all these different things that you're seeing on the screen that we log into, that your customers, their employees are logging into, and most of them require, right, an email or username and a password. And a lot of people, we know this, right? They reuse their passwords or a different variation, very similar variation on any one of these or all of these sites, right? So, when these sites get breached, because that more likely they will, they don't have to necessarily report it right away. They put it under investigation, and it could be 6 months, a year, 2 years before they come out and say, hey, guess what? 500 million people were involved in this breach. Well, meanwhile, your customers' data has been sitting out there, and that data could be the keys to their kingdom and their network, right? And it could be the keys to an application that holds banking information, right? It could be the keys to the kingdom that's holding employee, customer data. So it's really, really important that you walk them through and have a good conversation around, the third-party websites and what specifically that means to them, right? And telling stories, relatable stories, and walking them down that pain path of what could happen is really a very effective way of getting them to really see, right? And then when you see that data that's leaked out on the dark web from these third-party sites, you need to know, what your employees, what your customers, what your employees are putting into these different sites, right? Should they be having their own Dropbox account? Should they be able to go into a CRM on their own and create a customer database, right? Should they have Excel files, a 401k, social security information, right? So it comes down, to compliance, and it comes down to you being that person that guides them and puts in place great policies, right? Using DNS, content filtering, block the sites that they shouldn't be going to, block the sites that you don't want, people using their email, their work email and passwords to be able to log into. These are the things to take into consideration, because where there's a lot of that's where a lot of these exposures are coming from. And like I was talking about it. All it takes is just one email and one password that could theoretically destroy a network and exploit them, and not just for customers and clients, but yourselves as MSPs as well. And I can tell you, talking to MSPs daily, I hear about credentials that are popping up on the dark web, right? And it's also MSPs information that's popping up there too, right? So knowing that in advance, knowing that your bank or your RMM, your Office 365 passwords are exposed, allows you to go and change it immediately, right? And stop from your customers, yourself from being a victim of a scam or an exploit. So, I mean, I know, you're probably thinking, okay, that's great, right? Third-party websites, but there's more, right? I won't go into depth because you can read what's up here on the screen, but there's obviously there's other methods of exposure, right? And I would say the number one thing that we see now is phishing. Phishing has exploded, right? Thank you, COVID. Not only was it a worldwide pandemic, but also has exploded with phishing emails. I think as MSPs, you're trying constantly to remind your people, your clients, right? Pay attention to these emails. Don't click on the links. Look who it's coming from, right? Should you have received that email? Phishing emails are a great way to put in keyloggers, right? So now you've got an end user, right? They've got a phishing email, it's got a keylogger in it. So when they click on it, they put in their password and their usernames. Now they've got it. Now they can go and put it on the dark web. And then again, they could be used to go after more businesses, your business, right? Same thing. You've got, watering holes, you've got malvertising, web attacks. I mean, we see this all the time. It's thick, and having that, got to make sure that you're educating your customers, right? And not only why they need the 24/7 monitoring, but you too, right? So you need to know if someone clicks on a phishing email and it puts it out there and that data hits the dark web, right? You get notified. Then you can work with your customers in a matter of minutes to get their passwords changed, make sure that nothing else can get logged into, and you're protecting the business again, from the exploits. You'll know if you've got people with third-party websites, create the policies, the procedures, work with the companies to make sure that they understand, and it really helps build value for you, the MSP, that you're taking it to that length, right, to help them protect their business, right? So you also got to be looking for the phishing emails and the malvertising and the watering holes and all these different sites that we were talking about as potential ways that someone could get your data. So while you think that maybe you're okay, or your customers thinks that maybe they're okay, someone clicks on a phishing email and gets keylogged and their information goes out there, right? How would you normally know, right? You wouldn't. That's where the dark web monitoring, the 24/7 comes into play, is those, that when that hits, then you can, get alerted in real time, alert customers in real time, right? And you're now protecting that customer base, right? So it's really important to have the 24/7 monitoring. I can't really stress that enough. Not just to go out there and do a prospect, do prospecting, right? And I'll talk about that in just a minute, and do a meeting with a report, but that ongoing report and that real time, action from you is going to show your customers that you're taking their security very, very seriously. So if you bought dark web, you have access to the live data search, and it is a phenomenal prospecting tool, right? And it's phenomenal if used correctly. So with it, you're able to show your prospects or existing customers, right? Going back to using the reports to upsell, to have those conversations with current customers, that their data is exposed on the dark web, right? You're showing them and helping them understand the risks and vulnerabilities that are out there, using this report. And most of the time, they're going to see a person that's in the company, right? They're going to see a password or username. Sometimes it could be themselves. And at that point, you've got them emotionally. They're emotionally engaged in your conversation because you've uncovered something that they didn't know was out there. And that's the important part, is take this and sell with it. And the only way you can sell with it is by educating, right? Educating them on the risk, right? How their data got there, what happened, what can happen, and how that it's important that they keep monitoring for that, right? You're trying to prospect and get out there and have, if you're prospecting in your local area, it's important. This is something I always strongly, advise, right? It's important that you don't just send the actual live compromise report, that live prospecting report. By doing so, you're taking 95% chance that you're not going to get that meeting. You're going to give it to them. You're going to give them, you'll give it to them and then give them the ability to, discredit the data, or you're going to they'll let their internal person say, okay, I'll go make sure everybody changes their password. And it's more than that. It's again, that education piece, teaching them that this could be an ongoing thing, and why ongoing monitoring is important. Right. And maybe they need more security inside their organization. There's a lot of different things that come from the dark web scan. And, when the partners that we have that are successful, right, when they open the doors, we're seeing, MSPs get full MRR deals, right? We see people dropping security offerings for internal IT, or just a business that it's all that they want, right? This could open the door for you for a lot of different things. Co-managed IT, commits is a big thing right now, and this is one of the best ways that a lot of our that successful MSP partners are doing it and getting their foot in the door, right? But if you just send a report, you're going to kill your chances of being able to get those bigger fish, or even just get the appointment. And so, when you talk to a prospect, right, running the scan, right, it's going to create that dissatisfaction, and invariably it's going to, show something that needs to take action on, right? So that, is part of that differentiator and getting your foot in the door with this tool, right? And being able to have that bigger conversation, right? Peel back the layers of the onion, identify additional opportunities. And it may not be just dark web monitoring. It may be, a VoIP deal, or, employee onboarding and offboarding policies, right? Because they're not thinking about, oh, that employee that left, 2 years ago, are the other third-party websites, the HR sites and the things that they had access to. More than likely that, that employee did not shut down that access before they left, right? And those creds, the login credential, the access is still going to be, they'll still have that access, right? So, but again, these are all the things that you will be able to demonstrate and be that trusted partner and that advisor, and it's only going to strengthen the relationships and really set you apart as the security focused managed services provider. So just so kind of just to recap, right, I talked about a couple of different things. And at the end of the day, right, it doesn't matter if you're a one-man business or a 5,000 employee business, right? Dark web monitoring is critical for everybody, right? Because we're all equally in this, because we all equally, we all use basically the same sites, right? To get our jobs done. The dark web, how it's a thriving business, hackers are always at least 2 to 3 steps above us or ahead of us in terms of trying to get this data out there. And we need to take it serious, because it's a business that's thriving and it's not going anywhere. I talked about the unique selling proposition using the live data search and that compromised report, right? And using it to get your foot in the door to land that meeting, right? Remember, educate, don't just sell, right? When you're talking to your current customers about, policies and procedures and the risk, right? Get comfortable, be comfortable with talking about the risk, because now it's not just the risk to the customer, it's also the risk to you as the MSP, right? And so you're taking on a lot of the risk. I'm reading horror stories on news sites where lawyers are looking at going to MSP's websites, and if your website says, the basic, we'll handle your technology, so you can focus on the business. That blanket assumption of the technology risk, that's all a lawyer needs to be able to hang an MSP, right? And until there's formal regulation in the MSP space, right? I mean, you look at a doctor, the doctor gets called to court, and they can cite policies, right? And documented medical regulations that they adhere to. So, get an MSP in court, and a lawyer is going to be like, so, but how did you come to those recommendations, right? So, and kind of to summarize it all up, the risk it needs to be discussed, and whether that's going back and looking at your MSA and reviewing it again and changing the language, but it's critically important to be sitting down and talking to your customers and clearly mapping out and getting it down, who assumes the risk of what, right? So, and that's also going to help you when you're saying, hey, we're having this conversation about cybersecurity again, and this is my minimum security requirements, and we need to get you up to that because I'm assuming as much risk as you, right? So we need to talk about, if this happens, who's assuming the risk for that? Because it's not going to be me. Oh, it's going to be you. Okay, well then, so here's the thing. Let's instead of getting to that point, let's this is where we need to be so that none of that happens, right? So educate, right? The selling will happen. Don't just sell, but educate as well, right? And you can sell through education. And don't give the data away without having that 5 to 10 minute meeting, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minute meeting, whatever you can get, take it, right? But that meeting is a critical point to you. Having success with this product and helping you get other products and services in there with your customer base. So, I mean, I talked about the importance of those third-party websites, right? Put policies and procedures around that in your customer's organization, right? And if you're an ID agent customer, we've got some of those policies and procedure templates in the Powered Services portal. There's also the 9 ways document, which is the threat to all businesses, and being able to so you can actually show that you can actually show the 9 ways how the third party, right, can impact and the risk, right? You can write down the number if you're meeting with a prospect, or right, you can write down the number of exposures they have and really have a productive, educated meeting with clients, with prospects. And I talked a little bit about the other methods of exposure, right? The phishing, the malvertising, the watering holes, all that, the web attacks. And, I just want to make sure, that people realize it's more than just the third-party websites, and the risk from the third-party websites alone is huge. But there's a lot of different ways that their credentials could get exposed, and so that really is the reason why 24/7 monitoring, the dark web monitoring, is critical, right? So leverage the tools you have available to you, the reports, to expand that conversation with your current customers, and use that to get your foot in the door with prospects. And whether it be offering to run a free phishing campaign, or pulling reports on the problem child employees, or the live data search compromise report, right? Whatever it is, there's many different ways. Use them all in combination, right? But really have a lot of success with this, and it will change the narrative of the conversations that you're having. If anybody on the call is not an ID agent customer, and you're interested in learning a little bit more, or want to schedule a one-on-one demo, you can reach out to me, apero@idagent.com. I can put that in the chat. And let's see here. So if you'd like to reach out to me, I'm available by email. And if you are already a current ID agent customer and you're interested in learning more about powered services and the sales and marketing stuff that we have there and make available for you guys to make the education and the coaching and the guidance of selling this easier, feel free to reach out to me about that. And of course, connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'm always sharing thought leadership stuff that you can repurpose for your audience, and really just, we got to start as a community, right? It's critical for us to continue to share information about cybersecurity, right? Share the education, and so we can, fight this battle together. All right.
Hey, Amelia, just a question here. Is that on, you touched on it a bit, but I'm just curious on it of, there's a lot of that I hear. You and I have talked about it a bit around this. Well, my customers won't buy dark web. It actually kind of two-part question on it. First one is, I don't know if you have the full stats. I know you and I talked about it. You didn't have it at the time, but even in your estimation, for those that are signed up, whether it's with ID Agent or another provider, are you seeing them that they're getting all of their clients on dark web monitoring, or is there a big opportunity still that's there, and that they're maybe getting like 30% of their clients bought into this, and then the rest are just not being covered, or they're not pushing it enough?
And yes, so short answer is yes. Our partners that are super successful, they have all of their clients in and they're monitoring them. And I'll tell you why you definitely want to make sure that you are monitoring all of your clients. First of all, you never know when that next compromise is going to be like the critical one, right? So if you think about it, you're missing out on those alerts, those compromise notifications, and so every time you miss out on that alert, that notification, you're missing out on an opportunity to reach out to your customers and say, hey, again, we're having, another opportunity to have that conversation with them about increasing their cybersecurity. Because if they're getting compromises, it may be their CFO, right? It may be their accounts payable person and their active password. It may be an ex-employee, and it was on a site that they just, they didn't realize that it was still active, right? And so you're missing out on those opportunities to expand the conversation, and also missing out on the opportunities to really, solidify in your customer's mind that you're watching out for them, right? Staying top of mind. You've got their back, and the more chances you have, the more opportunities that you have to talk to them about security and why it's a volatile landscape that is constantly changing. The attack vectors are expanding. I heard, I was on a call with, I think it was a Cisco call or something. They were talking about the threat landscape, and somebody had to leave the call because their Roomba had been compromised, right? I mean, like, it sounds like science fiction stuff, but it's real. Like, you have to worry about your fridge now and your Roomba floor vacuum, right? So, I mean, we all, it's getting to a critical point, right? So again, missing out on those opportunities, right? So you want to be successful with this. You want to, get some serious, additional revenue boost with this. The easiest thing you can do is have all your customers monitored. And even so, I get it. Sometimes it's a difficult conversation. We can help you with that, right? The Powered Services team is more than happy to jump on a call with you and help you build the urgency and demonstrate the value to a customer or a prospect. But even if, like, for the first month or so, you're monitoring their domain and doing it as a value add, I guarantee you that in 30 days or less, there's going to be a compromise that pops up, right? And so you're bringing it to them and saying, hey, this compromise was identified, right? Maybe it's a current employee. Let's get their password changed. This is why security awareness training is important, right? This compromise may have been a result of phishing or key logging, right? Say, what sites are they going to? Again, it's expanding that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, is building it into the strategy. And I know we've seen at some of ours, it was talked about at one of our recent Producers Club meetings, of having your annual package of your cybersecurity package. I know Bruce McCauley talked about that as one of the speakers. And what's important in that is that it gives you that opportunity to be able to then package it in your cybersecurity solution, your managed services solution, as that all-in-one pricing, so that you can include it, and making sure that they fully understand why this is so important. The other one that I would say is that sometimes this is one that's it's a long-term strategy over time. I remember talking with Kevin, the founder of ID Agent, and talking with him about it the number of years ago, in one of the major sports leagues that they were just trying to get into when they actually sold direct in the business. And that was their original model, was selling direct. They were trying to get into one of these large sports leagues, and it took of just checking regularly, of monitoring, and they finally found it. And I think it was, if I remember right, it was the CFO's, like, the password that the CFO uses popped up. And so whether it's the phishing training or the with the dark web monitoring or whatever it is, of where sometimes it's just of where you have to be diligent there and keeping on it, and not just taking that initial gut reaction. I think as business owners or people that are the buyers, too often their gut reaction on anything is no, hey, I'm not interested, especially if it's going to cost them more money. When you can prove it out, when you've got the tools, the reports, and everything to be able to show that, hey, this is being really taking care of you, so you don't have that big, huge thing that happens to you in your business that now you're freaking out and wishing that you would have said yes. That it's a long-term strategy sometimes that you're having to just keep on hammering on those other ones, of dripping on them.
Yeah, but I think it's really critical to not miss out on any opportunity to demonstrate value and be top of mind, right? Because if nothing else, that's going to set you apart from maybe someone who would come in and try and displace you.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey, Amelia, I'm not seeing any other questions here. I know Dwayne had one. I referred of just to talk with you direct offline, kind of more of a one-on-one question. So Dwayne, make sure that email with Amelia, and she can definitely connect with you on that one. Otherwise, great content today, Amelia. I appreciate you taking the time here on a Thursday afternoon to run through this. I know you're on the road, so ideally, maybe you're not on the road today. I can't tell what that backdrop.
So this week, I am home before I kick off the next. So I won't be home till December. So the lull before the storm.
Yeah, you'll be in Nashville here next week, I believe, here at our rapid implementation workshop.
Yeah. Actually, I unfortunately will not be at that one because I'm triple booked.
I feel hurt you didn't pick us, but we'll have to accept that. Well, I'm joking with you.
I know. Trust me, I would really rather be there because I love the Robin Rams community, and I especially love the rapid implementation groups. Those are great. So you will get the less pretty version of me. Brian will be covering the presentation, but he's fun. So give him lots of crap.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, Amelia, I appreciate it. Everyone else out there, have a great day. If you missed this or you want to pass it along, We also do have this on the recording, and it will be sent out to you sometime here over the next 24 hours. So with that, we're going to end the call today, and thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.